Today there are a lot of updates from the south. First of all, in order to dispel all doubts about the decisiveness of the victory attained in the battle for Piatikatry, Ukrainian fighters released a lot of combat footage. The videos show intense shelling and destruction of Russian positions as a part of the preparation for the assault. Interestingly, this artillery preparation took place right between Piatikatly and Zarabianki, exactly where one of the attacks was delivered. This attack allowed Ukrainians to achieve two crucial tasks: cut off Russian forces from support and set conditions for the encirclement. Next, Ukrainians showed how they used UR-77 demining systems on the approaches to the settlement. Judging by the footage, Ukrainians did not use it to clear the way from mines but rather eliminate Russian positions in a tree line in front of the Ukrainian positions in the forest. After clearing the surroundings and opening the gate for the attack on the settlement, Ukrainians identified the areas where Russians started creating the biggest resistance points and used their artillery to suppress Russian fire and undermine Russian defenses, which finally allowed Ukrainians to enter the western part of the village. The footage shows that Russians rolled out their tanks in the center of the settlement and started demolishing the houses that Ukrainians used as cover. The next fragments show how Russian forces started withdrawing their heavy equipment because of the dwindling prospects of a successful defense. However, as mentioned at the beginning, the first axis of the Ukrainian attack became the road that connects the two villages, so the column was ambushed by the Ukrainian ATGM crews and destroyed. Ukrainian drone operators also released plenty of videos, which suggest that many Russian infantry fighting vehicles and personnel carriers were destroyed by kamikaze drones. Such a rapid change in conditions allowed Ukrainians to pull their tanks closer to the village, as the footage shows Ukrainian tanks operating in the western part of Piatikatky. Soon after that, Ukrainians took into a pocket the Storm Ossetia battalion and completely liberated the settlement. Nonetheless, today in the morning, Russian forces once again tried to launch a powerful mechanized assault and recapture Piatikatky. Unfortunately for Russians, Ukrainians established extensive fire control over the main Russian roads and spotted the Russian column already on the approach. Geolocated footage shows that Russian tanks and armored fighting vehicles entered the trap, faced destructive artillery fire already in Zarabianki, and the furthest Russian vehicles got before being destroyed was around 50 meters out of the settlement. Ukrainian fighters reported that after losing almost all equipment, Russian units on the zero line had to continue storming with pure infantry, which did not work very well in this particular scenario. In the meantime, Ukrainians continued moving forward. Today it was confirmed that Ukrainian forces conducted successful offensive actions in the vicinity of the First Northern Gully. If we look at the topographic map, we can see that this area is very convenient for advancing because such a narrow gully allows to avoid crossfire. Given that Ukrainians already controlled Lobkov, such actions allowed them to fully secure the hill, from which Ukrainians could start assaulting Russian positions in the tree lines. Today, many Russian sources reported that Ukrainians established fire control over the road that connects Zarabianki to Luhov, meaning Ukrainians likely achieved significant success and got closer to Zarabianki from the north. As you might have noticed, Ukrainians are using basically the same approach here as with Piatikatky because Ukrainians are once again putting their main emphasis on cutting off supply and support of the Russian group, isolating individual Russian positions, and setting conditions for an encirclement. Even though it is hard to encircle Russian forces physically, Russian forces still have no escape. The road to the west is under total fire control, the fields to the south are mined, and Ukrainians are advancing from the north and east.